as I say this out loud. Well, you know what? I'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
Because you know what? Welcome to the Semi-Bookish Podcast.
Hey, we're here.
Yay!
We're alive. We're all healthy. Hopefully, I don't know.
My foot's dying, but that's an all other
Okay.
thing all by itself. But anyways, hello everyone. Welcome to the Semi-Bookish Podcast, where we talk about books and ish, depending on what day it is. And today is a book episode. Yeah. So let's get started with Grant, and you're going to tell me what you're reading today.
Yeah. What are
Or
you
playing, reading, watching.
Yeah. Well, okay. So, I'm not playing anything at the moment.
You're pointing at me specifically because you know
Yes.
what I've done all weekend.
Yes, I do.
I see.
I'll explain to you what I've done all weekend too.
Although honestly, I have been fighting for democracy every once in a while in
Helldivers?
Helldivers, yes.
Oh, nice. Okay.
You got it.
I was gonna say, which college campus did you go help fight democracy on? Because I feel like
Did you go to Columbia?
no,
Not
it
tell
would
us?
be much easier to go to U of M. It's right there.
Are they doing it too?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
U of M has
okay.
had arrests. Columbia has had arrests. Several universities in Texas have had arrests.
So that's your news for today, everyone.
Still wondering why we have a president. But anyway, Grant, while we still have a president in this supposedly free nation, what are you, what are you
Don't say
entertained?
that. The agents will
Luckily,
listen
we're
to
at
us.
a large wooden table, so we can knock on.
I mean, look, I voted for him. I have every right to complain about his inadequacies.
Anyways, tell me, what are you reading?
Carry
What are you
on.
watching? What are you fighting democracy about on?
Yeah, Helldivers, yes. And
Yeah, right.
other things.
Yes, Helldivers. I'm reading my final auto rank book, Beyond Psychology, which is the last one he wrote before he died.
Okay.
And I've seen a few movies lately. I saw Civil War in theaters.
Oh, did you see this A24 one?
Yeah,
How
is it?
I was surprisingly good.
Okay.
Surprisingly.
I don't know if I'm more surprised that it was good or more surprised that like how off the mark a lot of the discourse around it is. But with a movie like that, you're not going to get an impartial review.
My
like,
only discourse is in what world is California and Texas on the same playing field?
It is unexplained. Because
No!
that's not the point.
That's the only plot hole I wanted.
It's an adaptation, isn't it?
I don't believe so. I'm
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's an original script.
Okay, because when I first heard it going around, it sounds so much like this book called American War.
Maybe it was
that
inspired.
I tried to read, but it made me very angry because it's written by, of all people, the book that I'm thinking of that this has nothing to do with, is written by
Words escape us today.
a Middle Eastern American man. I cannot remember which Middle Eastern country his family is from. But he's an American. He went to an American university and all this kind of stuff. And I tried to read that book, and I was so angry because his depiction of the United States, yes, is very similar to me of Suzanne Collins's picture of a future America. And I was just like, what country do you people live in? This is not how this would shake out at all, ever. And so anyway.
Yeah, I would say that if you go into
Civil War
a movie
with
like
that.
Civil War, like wanting to actually like get into the nitty gritty particulars of how
and why
exactly. I mean, there's like threads you can follow. Like, okay, this is stuff led to blah 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 blah. But
So what's the appeal?
the appeal? Okay, so I would say it succeeds primarily as a just an experience. It's shot beautifully. Just kind of the odyssey through America that you go through is, I'd say, so for the visceral experience, number one, which I would say it's definitely a success in that regard. And I feel like the commentary that is there in the movie, it comes primarily through the juxtaposition of, because really, honestly, most of the movie could just take place in any war-torn country. The shock factor comes from like taking this skeleton for like a war journalism story, because it is about journalism and the power of images and film and stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of the shock factor comes from, you know, just transplanting that to America. And
That's interesting.
a lot of people have interpreted the characters as, you know, psychopathic adrenaline junkies, which to a certain extent they kind of are.
I mean, have they ever met an American?
Yeah. But it's the fact that you're seeing them behave so nonchalantly and treating this conflict as if it was any other conflict. It creates,
I mean, that's just the kind of world we're in right now.
I know,
But
it presents a dissonance, or it can create a dissonance I don't know. I can feel it making people uncomfortable.
Do you think that it's a harder movie for people to accept, you know, cold because of the current
certainly
world crises that we find ourselves involved in? You know,
I haven't seen much. I feel like for something like that, you need a more distant.
Yeah, you need a
cold
different
analysis,
time,
and you're just not going to find that.
Sure.
At least I haven't.
Not right now. Yeah.
In like actual published. Big reviews like in the Wall Street Journal or whatever.
Yeah.
But no, I as a film, I think it's I don't want to say fun, because it's not necessarily a fun movie, but it'll take you on a journey, and you will feel things.
Yeah.
And I liked it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Tony.
So, actually, everything you just said reminded me of a favorite of mine that I forgot that I've only seen this movie once, but it lived long in my memory. So, but Joe had never seen Interstellar. So last night he was like, "Have you watched Interstellar?" And I was like, "I can always watch Interstellar." I mean, you know how you remember that you love something and you remember very specific reasons for it, but there are all the particulars that you forget because, you know, Interstellar is 2.5 hours. That movie is so good. It is, you know, so you talking about Civil War reminds me of like, yeah, you know, we didn't listen to Interstellar either. We should have, and we're still not. So there's that. That was 10 years ago. Can you imagine? Like, that's insane.
That is.
It was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It does not feel like it was 10 years ago.
Like, when I actually think about it, I'm like 10 years ago, and I see like what else was coming out at the time. I was like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. But when you say 10 years ago, it's like,
yes,
I feel old.
Out of all of the white people in space movies, Interstellar is the only one you should watch. I know everyone has a partiality for Gravity, but I'm sorry, it's just
I'm not a Gravity fan.
Excellent. Is there another one that you're?
I was gonna say 2001, obviously, because that's.
Oh, but see, that's not what I mean by the white people in space movie. You remember when Interstellar and Gravity and all those movies were coming out? Even there's that stupid one with Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence that everyone somehow... right? Everyone went to go see this whole like slate of, you know, I call them the white people in space movies for a reason, because that's literally what they are. That's the only thing that unifies them is, oh no, this white couple has a problem in space. Even like there was a new Aliens movie that I love, the Aliens franchise. I think it's just the best like garbage franchise out there, apart from Resident Evil.
After the first three, it does quickly become garbage.
Yeah, it does.
I will agree with you.
Okay, so I need to see 3 and 4, but the first 2, of course, are classics for reasons. They must be. They're excellent. They're superb. But, you know, everything after 3 and 4, which I have seen repeatedly, Prometheus is still a better movie than people give it credit for. Sure. But Prometheus is still amongst the garbage. Like, they're all just trash movies. But, oh, they're so fun to watch. Even those, like, the robot is a white guy in space. Like, you can't escape it. Anyway, all of that is to say, what am I reading, watching, playing? I am playing Fallen Order again. Because I'm sort of always playing. It's a part of my... If it's not an Arkham game, then it's one of the Jedi Survivor... Fallen Order games, because I'm just constantly playing those all the time.
Yeah, that's Doom for me. I always, if I don't have anything else to do, I'll just play Doom.
Yeah. And so I'm having...
Spice Wars?
No, Doom.
Oh, Doom.
Doom. Yeah.
I want to play Spice Wars at some point.
Yeah. I'm like, Spice Wars?
So yeah, I'm having fun with that again, because I always am, but also I'm waiting because I now am a PS4 owner.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know. I'm so excited. So I have some Spider-Man games to play. I have God of War games to play. I mean, I have to become a PlayStation player because Xbox has failed me for the last time, Admiral. So anyway, that's what I'm playing. I am, of course, extremely. By the time you're hearing this, I will have already had my heart broken by X-Men 97's 3-episode finale, which happens tomorrow, which is the day after we record. So, oh god, so, send up flares.
Is it following the same general plot as the original?
So it's not a reboot.
Okay.
It's a continuation.
Oh.
Obviously using new animation, but they literally, the only thing that's like reboot about it is they brought back the entire cast, original cast, with the exception of Jubilee, because the original actress had only one thing to say, which was an Asian American actress should play that character. And so they hired an Asian American character to play Jubilee, but they also hired the original voice actor, who's a Canadian woman, to play a character that I can't spoil. But she's in there. She's in there, and it makes sense when you see it, and you're like, oh, thank you. It's great. It's great. It's great. So I'm excited. I'm also really nervous because they have not spared any punches. Like, they've killed off 4 X-Men at this point. Like, core characters. Not like, oh, they killed off Apocalypse and they'll bring him back for it, or, oh, they made Cable stay in a bad time. Like, no. They, like, full on have killed off a few.
So they're committing.
Like, they're committing, yeah. There's a couple that I'm not surprised that they brought back, because I'm like, can you really kill them off and then also kill off other? No. So there have been some surprises in that regard, but they're showing us who the X-Men really are, because we've had decades of the movies trying to convince us that Wolverine is the most powerful X-Men, when it is quite exactly the opposite. He is one of the weakest. He just has adamantium, which is fine, but he's very limited.
Yeah, adamantium's not going to do much use if you're disintegrated.
No, he's very, very limited. So they've been focusing on Storm, Rogue. I mean, come on.
The actual powerhouse.
Yeah, right. And of course, Magneto, because
of course,
he is the powerhouse to end all powerhouses. Even Apocalypse is like, yeah, you're something special. So, like, yeah, that's been fun. I'm also reading right now and having a really, really good time. I'm reading Good Omens right now.
Oh.
Yeah, I have not read Good Omens yet, but I decided I wanted to read all of Neil Gaiman's adult novels that aren't graphic novels, and there's only like 6 of them if you include Good Omens, which you have to, because that's his first, like, Good Omens only got written because he literally was like, oh crap, I don't know how to write anything that's not a graphic novel, but people keep asking me for it, and Neverwhere doesn't count because it was a radio drama. So he's like, how do I write something that's not a script? I don't know. And he was freaking out, and he'd only met Terry Pratchett like a handful of times, and he was talking to Terry at a convention about it, and Terry was like, send me something. So he sends Terry what he had, and Terry sends him back this email like 3 o'clock in the morning, and was like, so I don't know how this is gonna end or where it's gonna go, but I do know what happens next. And Neil was like, please. So Terry just starts writing the next part, and Neil reads it and goes, oh, that's brilliant. And so they just tag team emailed each other for the whole time they were writing Good Omens. And honestly, because they chose to write it in a omniscient voice, it works. Like, you have this huge cast of characters that, of course, Neil knows how to write because he wrote comics. So there's that nice balance of, like, every character is getting exactly what they need from the story, and they're also feeding into the story, and it all connects somehow. And you know that it all has to do with the fact that the Antichrist went missing. Because that's literally the plot. Like, the plot is the Antichrist... the trade-off happened wrong, and so this angel and this demon who don't want the planet to apocalypse because they love human beings are trying to overthrow. They're trying to stop the Antichrist, but they can't find him. So it's incredibly hilarious. It's great hijinks. There are moments where you think to yourself, did 2 people just sit there with bar napkins at Farver's and just plot this out? And that's
essentially what they did.
That's what they did. Yes.
3 a.m. emails tells me that's exactly what they did.
So it's thorough because you have 2 incredibly thorough writers, at not even at the top of their game, like at the beginning of their game, doing stuff that you're like, wow, a lot of writers now at the top of their game. Like Brandon could never pull that off. And I love Brandon Sanderson, and he is currently at the top of his game. But, like, there is something very particular about Good Omens that you have to be Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett to actually achieve.
Oh, no, that's fair.
They did. It's almost like the first Indiana Jones movie, in a way. Like, only Lucas and Spielberg could possibly have conceived of that thing at that time, despite how obvious it feels, or how, like, predestined it feels. That's the point, is that it's not as simple as it looks, and it's not as predestined as it looks. The Mummy franchise will alert you that it's not as easy as it looks, because it's a cheap Indiana Jones knockoff. Anyway, I have swung hard enough today, and I've only just begun. Aaron, what are you reading, watching, playing? What did you do all weekend? That's what I want to know.
What animals have you reared?
So, for my birthday...
Did you play Pal World?
No. For my birthday, I went to GameStop, and I made an executive decision, and I now own a whole PS5.
Good for you! I would clap, but there's a microphone.
You could if you wanted to, but anyways,
that's good.
I own one now. I also have PlayStation Plus too, so I can play games like on top of that.
Yeah.
Currently, I'm playing a game called Wulong Fallen Dynasty. So it's like a mix between like Dark Souls and Sekiro Shadows.
Okay.
It's like so Dark Souls-esque in terms of how you're fighting and everything, but like it's set in kind of like a Sekiro world, but it's like Chinese dynasty kind of thing.
Sure.
Right now, I'm trying to fight a monkey. It's not going too well because they rely heavily on the parry options for things.
Wow.
And it is a nightmare. They're like, yeah, we have a visible queue. There's no visible queues. So I'm just smashing the dodge button like it's my life, and it never works.
I get that.
But on top of that, because like I could, and because I was downstairs all this weekend playing it in our living room on the giant like 70-something inch TV that we have in our living room.
Nice.
Gotham Knights. Because
that is the best way to play that game, honestly. On a huge
honestly,
screen.
so here's the thing, because I own the game on PC, it's a lot different in
like on console.
Yeah,
really.
Not like I'm not saying like the stories are different, obviously,
right.
But like the mechanics are and the like getting used to controller versus keyboard and mouse.
Oh, sure.
Completely different.
I could see that.
Because
more than usual with a ported game or like
different. It's just so to actually drive. Did you play it on Xbox or PS5?
Xbox.
Xbox?
Yeah.
So driving it on keyboard, you just press the W button because you're just going forward. Like that's it. That's all you press. However, on console, you're hitting the trigger button, which is fine. However, because like I'm not paying attention, and then there's a glare from the window to the TV because I live in a house.
Sure.
The eject button has become my favorite thing to unironically accidentally start using. When I'm playing on PC, I don't use the eject button whatsoever. I just get off like normal.
Sure.
And I'm more so used to, and this is something also that I've noticed, and this is just me because I don't like the aspect of having to use like one joystick to move around, like the camera, and the other one to move around.
Sure.
Because, like, to me, it's a little bit disorienting and a little bit, like, nauseating at the same time, which is completely separate. So, when you're slinging around, like Spider-Man, with the grappling hook thing going on, it's easier on PC than it is on console. Full stop.
I suppose. I wouldn't know. I've played all those games on console, so I'm a console player.
Somebody who's playing both.
Yeah.
It is easier to swing around on PC than it is on the console.
Okay.
With you have a controller.
Sure.
In my opinion, because with the other one you have to be really careful. On the console you have to be really careful on where you're aiming because
I'm
not aiming at the right spots anymore, which is frustrating to me because I was really good at aiming the last time and now I'm not.
Yeah.
But because the get off your motorcycle, the bat cycle button is just the circle button.
Yeah.
And you have to hold it, right? I keep forgetting that because I'm holding the trigger, and so my immediate reaction is to hit L1. And so I keep ejecting myself into the sky. But it's been working in my favor because I've been driving into the middle of all of the people. So I'll eject myself up and use it as an ambush tactic.
Yes.
So it works very well. However,
it does work.
Not the best moments because I'm trying to get reused to.
Yeah.
So I'm playing that, obviously, and Final Fantasy because I love Final Fantasy VII. Anyways.
Before we talk about the book that Grant has selected for us.
I wasn't even done yet.
Oh! Are you going to mention the Fallout TV series?
I haven't watched it yet.
You let me know when you watch
I need to watch
it. We'll talk
However,
about it.
I've seen the first episode.
When I watch it, I need you all to know that I'm going to be coming in very academically / alright, so in the games they did this.
No, I know.
And now we're doing this.
Joe and I watched
All I know is that everyone has a love for Walter Goggins, which is great.
Well, of course, he's Walter Goggins.
He was fantastic. I have been made aware of a particular aspect of his character that does change certain things about the game, but as far Joe was
because he's a ghoul.
Yeah, Joe was like,
honest,
honestly, it's ornamental, but what they did with his character in the show, honestly, is my favorite thing in the show.
Yes.
I'm not going to say anything more than that because I want you to experience it as you experience it.
And then, as far as I know, a lot of people were kind of complaining online that it takes out New Vegas. Which, if it does, if it takes out New Vegas, I will be sad. But
there's a reason, and I won't tell you what it is.
Fine.
Yeah.
But anyways.
You need to get there.
And then I'm playing Sims.
Oh, yes.
On top of everything, I'm playing Sims.
Of course.
And watching characters fight each other while I'm trying to get my child character to make her imaginary friend real. Because I named him Klaus. Because I'm also rewatching Vampire Diaries all at the same time.
Oh, nice.
So that's what I'm doing with my life.
Oh, I'm also, I knew I was going to forget to mention this because May is going to be my month, I just got to tell you, in terms of entertainment. Because three things. On May the 4th, we get Tales of the Empire, which is
fair.
Gonna be great. It's little short episodes, and I think Dave Filoni's really, really good at those. Next week, May 10th, Doctor Who, with our lovely Inshuti Gatwa, who is just beautiful.
Oh, isn't he the first black?
Yeah, he's black. He's also the first confirmed gay Doctor Who.
Ooh.
And I've been watching the specials, the ones that David Tennant came back for, that are on Disney Plus. I highly recommend that you watch those because, one,
I love David Tennant.
It's the return of Russell T Davies.
Yes.
It's the return of the Dr. Donna. And if you know Doctor Who, you know what I mean
know
when
Dr.
I say that.
Donna.
Yes.
I love
and
Dr.
not
Donna.
only is it the return of Dr. Donna, but Doctor Who has showed us once again why we don't need Harry Potter. And that is all I'm going to say. Because in one episode, Doctor Who was like, oh yeah, we love trans people, and here's why. And they made it canon, and it's genius.
So
good.
Speaking of great things, we need to talk about this book.
That's true, but also My Hero is returning. That's the other thing.
Oh yeah, season 7. I'm dying.
Yeah, I'm not yet, but that's because I was going to give myself time to pace for season 6, but I can't do that now because season 7 is happening, and I'm already behind. So,
Tony's about to get to my episode. The book.
What book is it, Grant?
Grant, what is this? Why?
Alright. Is this our last book?
No.
Club book?
This is your last
We have
book
one
club
more.
Okay. No, we have mine and then Tony's.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So, disregard that. So, for my second choice, I chose Dreamlives of Debris, which is a novel by Lance Olsen.
Yes.
And just in case, because I didn't know who Lance Olsen was before I found this book randomly, he is the author of more than 20 books. His short stories, essays, and reviews have appeared in hundreds of journals and anthologies, which are listed afterwards, which I'll skip past. He's won the Guggenheim Prize. He's won the Berlin Prize. And just in case you didn't think he did, he won the Pushcart Prize, whatever that is.
That is actually a poetry prize.
Oh, okay. So he does write poetry. Or
at least that I know of, it's always been assigned to poets. So I'm going to imagine he probably does write poetry, but he hasn't had a collection.
I mean, with the way that this reads, I would not be surprised if he wrote poetry because, oh my god.
Yeah.
He's also a teacher at the University of Utah.
Oh!
This makes so much more sense.
Oh, okay. So Pushcart can also go for short fiction, essays, or literary whatnot.
Okay.
So I've only ever seen it in like bio lines for poets, but that's because maybe poets win more than everybody else. But anyway, yeah, that's all right. Nice. Anyway, so how did you come across this book?
I came across this, and I wasn't aware that it was put out by a Ann Arbor publisher, which makes sense because I found it at a used store.
And Ann Arbor.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yep, just the unusual size and the cover and everything just kind of stood out to me, and then I read the back and was like, oh, this sounds like this is the stuff I do like.
Yeah.
For the audience, this book is a square.
It is a square.
An absolute square.
Looks like a perfect. Yeah, it is actually. Yeah.
Now, whether that is that was a choice made for money reason, like monetary reasons, or if he likes.
I have a feeling that it was an artistic decision.
Okay.
Because I think that they basically, to me, it feels as though the book was cut down to paragraph size.
Oh.
Which makes sense, right? When you're reading it, because every page, that has it's paragraph shaped in that way. It's not always just a clean. There's nothing clean about this book, right? At all.
But I see what you mean. Like it's more it would just make sense since most it's split up into paragraphs basically.
Yeah, and my guess is the marketing department, having gotten hold of the copy, was probably like, yeah, that's a good choice, because traditional height and size just wouldn't work for a book like this.
No.
I don't think it would only frustrate you.
Honestly, no, it doesn't work. I'm reading this via Kindle. It doesn't work.
Yeah. So you found it, you read it.
Yep, I read it that night.
Why did you want us to read it?
Why?
I mean,
Why? Why do this to me?
I mean, well, first of all, I knew one of the books was going to be a Burroughs book. The only problem was deciding which one. Obviously, we went with Naked Lunch.
Sure.
And then I wanted another one that was, I don't know, kind of felt
similar.
Kind of similar. I was going to go with a Blake Butler book, but then I changed that last minute. And then rereading through this, honestly, it does reach Blake Butler levels of playfulness in regards with the language. So maybe
Like on the Poseidon course.
yes, the Poseidon course.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, so that is one of my favorite things about the book that I look. First of all, there are so many favorite things.
I'm really glad that you liked it.
I 5-starred it immediately without hesitation. I 5-starred it halfway through the book, but I was like, I have to finish it because I know, as we all know, that you can get halfway through a book and really love it, and then the last half you're like, wait, what?
True.
So I was like, I really hope that doesn't happen. But honestly, the last half, my enjoyment of the book increased exponentially. In ways that I wasn't surprised by. Because that's the thing. This is not a startling book in that sense because it's not traditional.
No.
It's
no way is this traditional.
Yeah, but what I love about it is that it isn't. It isn't. It is untraditional without trying to be untraditional. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it deals with traditional themes.
Absolutely.
I would say, but in a very untraditional way.
I like how quick it is.
Yes.
Because you don't realize, so if you look at this on Amazon, because I had to buy it on there, but let's say, you buy it on there, it tells you it's 296 pages. And I'm sitting here and I'm just going, okay, it's going to take me, I probably won't get all the way through. I'm still not all the way through, but, it probably won't, I probably won't finish it by then. And I'm like, okay, because it's 296 pages.
Sure.
I'm sitting here thinking, 296 pages.
Full prose pages.
Full prose pages.
Yeah.
I opened it earlier today and I just went, oh.
But
never mind.
I think that's the other strength of having it reshaping the book, because it is its own sense of an advertisement. It tells you right away, just from the shape of it, this is not.
This is tiny.
Not what you expect. This is not what you're supposed to expect. Nothing in here is typical, and that. I love that you get that from just the shape of the book alone, let alone once you open it and you see the format. It's very obvious, but you're like, okay.
The cover of the book, too, even on my phone, is also a square. The digital version is
sure.
still
The digital
also
version is still a square. That's
still square, which
interesting.
really confused me for like 0.2 seconds.
Just not the pages themselves. Like
no, the pages themselves look normal on my phone. But like if I go to the cover is square.
It is okay.
Like so, if you're not like paying attention, you're just like, oh. Well.
Advantage physical book.
Yeah, and I mean,
A physical book has the advantage in this one. I think if anybody does read this book, get the physical one.
No,
like, don't do the. Just don't do the like actual digital copy because it honestly, digital copy doesn't exactly do what I want it to do.
Yeah, I mean, with most books, I'm sure it would suffice, but when it's specifically tailored to like the format of the.
I think also because I have it digitally, it's really more difficult to read as opposed to the physical copy. Because the physical one is. You have that I'm going to now be taking because it's mine now. Yay! I'm taking it home.
That's how it works. You grab something, it's yours.
But like, if you take it and you look at it, like on my phone, it's like easy to just go swipe, 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 swipe. And so like I'm just like blowing through this like it's no problem whatsoever. Meanwhile, I'm literally sitting here and I'm just like looking at the physical one like. I wouldn't be actually able to flip through this super fast and go through it as fast as I am. I think that the physical one is easier to get through.
Yeah, I mean, just from, I haven't read the digital version, but just glancing at it.
It's the exact same, but it does not do it justice.
Yeah, I would tend to agree, and I mean, its unusual shape is kind of what I may have walked past it. Were it not for that, I was kind of intrigued and like,
So what literary parts of it are your favorite? Hello, welcome back. What literary parts are your favorite?
Oh, man.
Like, what literary things, like, when you're reading it, like, because you were reading it and you were drawn by the size of the book, but, like, when you were reading it, like, what made you go, like, oh, this is definitely for me, as opposed to...
I mean, I was immediately grabbed by the collage aspect. It's a collage of various voices. Even like not like things you wouldn't even necessarily think of like
the Danielle Steele song in the middle of it.
Where you're in Danielle Steele's mind as she's
fantastic.
Because the main character Debris, as she calls herself, she's experiencing all of these voices, all through time, all this text, blah 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 blah, and you get things that you get voices that you wouldn't expect. With the Danielle Steele one you mentioned, there's one where it's like the embodied voice of a computer virus.
Yeah.
Oh.
Which was very interesting to me.
Yeah.
And I don't know 100% if this ties into it, but like with like language as a virus, like becoming unwieldy, who knows?
Yeah.
But language is obviously a huge preoccupation in this book, as I'm sure you guys noticed.
Yeah.
And maybe you guys.
There's something I have a very strong sense of what I'm about to say, and I don't typically tend to do this because I think people should be free to read I work at a library, obviously. People should be free to read what they wish. I think that every trans or gender non-conforming person on the planet, at least in the United States of America, should read this book.
I forgot about that aspect of it.
Yeah. It's because it's one of those things that I have, and it's one of the reasons that I was telling Grant earlier that I was going to gripe about the state of modern fiction, because when do I ever not?
I would love to hear this, by the way.
One of my biggest complaints about modern fiction right now, everyone talks about it. We've had 10 years of reading diverse books, and so we've had all these varying wild rants and raves, and the TikTok people are adding their 2, 3, 4, 5 cents on without really knowing what they're talking about. But that's my point, is that for this whole time there's been an increasing push and then answer to the need for more people writing stories than just your typical standard cis straight white dude. Got it. That call was answered. Unfortunately, what did not come with it is an understanding that you can do more than just what publishing tells you you can. Publishing doesn't know how to write stories. If they did, they wouldn't publish half the stuff that they do. In fact, they wouldn't publish 95% of it. It sucks, right? And one of the big waves right now, this book could fit into, except it outsmarts all of them, including Song of Achilles, which I adore. I love Song of Achilles. Now, Song of Achilles and Dreamlives of Debris are doing very different things, and I think that that's important. I think both books should be able to stand next to each other and, like, have conversations with each other, but also be able to reach different groups of people for different ways and different reasons. They're both about queer rejects of the Greek world, and as we know, that is the world we inherited. Thank you, Romans. Thank you, English. Thank you,
whomever.
Thank you, the way the world went, right? I mean, the conquerors conquered. That's what they did, and this is what we ended up with, right?
And this book touches on that a little bit.
Yeah, it does, and that to me is the strength of Dreamlives of Debris, as opposed to Song of Achilles and its followers. Now, I've heard that Cersei actually does go in that direction a little tiny bit, but a lot of people who, particularly now, write historical fiction, but I think historical fiction has had this problem in general. They refuse to acknowledge that the planet that the people they're writing about lived on is the same planet we live on now.
So it feels like two completely separate worlds.
Yeah, and it's like you're reading it and you're just going, what human being even thinks like this? Like, it's like, yeah, I know exactly what a pampered prince looks like. I know what King Charles was like as a kid. We all do. It was televised. Right. That was the whole like it's not like we're ignorant of this stuff, but a lot of historical fiction writers who take that on proudly.
You see that a lot.
Yeah, especially now. Yeah, but with Dreamlives, I feel like it's more than just what it seems it could be. Do you know what I mean? And not by doing anything more than just committing to a very simple structure. I mean, it really is very simple. It's, all right, we're going to tell this character's story, and every time there's an interruption, it's from some other voice. And you could honestly, it felt too well put together. It felt almost like a quilt maker, like a master quilt maker was making a quilt. Master quilt makers don't follow patterns. They don't need to. They've been doing it their whole, lives, or however long they've been making quilts, right? So they just kind of pick, swatch, and they know when a mistake has been made and how to fix it. I mean, they just know those things by rote. And that's what this felt like. It felt like somebody was just like, oh, okay, I need this voice here, and just yanking it and putting it down. And in that way, it also has a similarity to anyone who grew up with, the radio prior to the internet. Particularly, 90s radio, which is not prior to the internet, but was before the internet got involved with radio. Fascinating. I mean, because that's what it felt like. You would hear your song, or if you just hear someone going through radio stations, that's what this book reads like.
It feels like that, yeah.
Yeah. And it made me actually want to go back through it and find every voice and pluck it out discreetly.
I feel like put their own thing in their own column and
just read them as one and see what...
For me, because you're using the go through the radio aspect of things, I like to do things a little more culty. It's like, so so when you're ghost hunting,
yes,
there's a spirit.
I was wondering where you were going to go with that.
No, the spirit box.
Oh.
So there's a thing called the spirit box.
Yeah.
The spirit box is essentially, so what it does is it runs through radio wave frequencies, but it's going so fast you can't hear anything out of it.
Yeah.
And the idea is the spirit, Debris, or whoever, will turn around and they use their energy, or they conjure up enough energy that they can find, and they pull something from the radio wave, and that's what comes up to the forefront.
Yeah.
And so because we have a ghost hunting kit, I've used the ghost hunting kit. It's really, really interesting. So one of the radio frequencies is 103.9, which is our radio station. Yeah. The funniest part is especially because you're so close to the radio frequency, honestly, like if you were ghost hunting or you were Debris and you were listening, and this is really where it kind of makes sense where I'm going here, so you're going through the different frequencies. As soon as it touches 103.9, which is our local radio station, because we're so close to their building, we get it the loudest. So the really interesting part, comparing your thing, is going through the different radios, is Debris could be, like, talking through the thing, and then because 103.9 is so loud and she's not pulling from over there, she's trying to pull from a different radio station, it just interjects in, like, immediately.
Yes.
And so it kind of feels like that, how it's pulling through all the frequencies, and you get one frequency that might be Debris, but then you get this other frequency that might be one of the choruses, or this frequency, which is something else, and you're just trying to go, okay, so am I talking to Debris, or am I talking to somebody completely different?
And it feels like an involuntary thing for her, so it really does feel like, radio interference or something like that.
It does.
It's a good analogy.
It is, actually, yeah. And I think one of the things that I loved about the different songs, the different voices, is how I remember when I got to the Danielle Steele one, and I didn't read Danielle Steele's song at the top. I just read the thing, and it wasn't until I got, like, almost to the bottom of the page that I thought, this is too normal. And I looked at the top, and it said Danielle Steele song, and I loved that. I was like, yep, there it is. Because it's not bad writing. It's actually quite the opposite. It's what a standard page of prose would look like in any given novel. And what's more standard, I guess it could have been a Stephen King song, but it really, it makes sense that it's a Danielle Steele song, because... And
it's not like you're reading an excerpt from a Danielle Steele book.
No.
You're reading, it's her thoughts.
You're like,
her monologue.
Yeah.
Although she would think, I would imagine she would think similar to a Danielle Steele book to some extent.
I mean, one would hope.
Like more.
I like how none of us have read Danielle Steele's.
Yeah, so I can't.
Yeah, I can't really say, but it did feel like, I remember thinking, I'm like, yeah, this feels like normal prose, and that's not why I'm. Oh, yeah, there it is, because that speaks to the craftsmanship of the author, is that he's not, and again, it's that sense of, like, he's not just doing this just for a lark. You know what I mean? Like, he's clearly trying to use this form to say something that only this form
is going to get there.
And from what I've seen, and I've read one other book of his,
what's it called?
Always Crashing in the Same Car, which is a book from the perspective of David Bowie, which obviously is another interest of mine.
Yes, you did tell me about that. Yeah.
Hyperfixation.
Yes, hyperfixations. But yeah, and that is also told in a very in a collage-y way, and this definitely feels like his project. Like he knows what he's doing. There's a method behind
the madness.
The madness. So he definitely has things that he wants to say throughout his various works and whatnot. And really quick, just because I don't think we mentioned the plot per se.
Of course.
Like
I don't think we've actually mentioned the plot at all.
Plot is such an interesting word.
Yeah,
with this book.
I mean the setup, I guess. So Debris herself. She's kind of a weird interpretation of
the Minotaur.
The Minotaur, yeah, and
the classic Greek Minos' Minotaur,
Yep, and other Greek figures from Greek myth and Greek history appear at different points either as characters interacting with her or you know.
Which is why I pulled in Song of Achilles and the mini clones
and
thereof
Circe
because
and looking at the cover, I think the I guess I kind of thought about it, but the skeleton, it kind of gives me the vibe of, like, mixed with, like, the antiquity of everything that's going on, like, archaeology, and I feel like...
Like digging up bones.
Digging up bones, digging up fragments.
Digging up Debris' story.
Debris.
Oh, yeah, that's...
Words, paragraphs, excerpts.
Right, yeah.
So I feel like that ties in with that really well. Sorry. So I just wanted to make sure that people knew what...
I loved the tie-ins with the creator of the Labyrinth, too.
With Daedalus. Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is nice. I like this.
But see, again, this is one of those things that I feel like I'm going to harp on this again. I warned Grant, and I suppose I warned all of you, but you know me by now. No disrespect to Natalie Haynes and all of the rest of the Madeline Miller clones, except mad disrespect. Because here's the thing: they all come in with this
is a call out.
It is a call out. Yeah, they come in with this force, right?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna call it white feminism. The force of white feminism came to bear because.
Trailer Book Effect?
I like that even better. Oh, that's good. I'm stealing that. I'm so using that from now on. Yes. So the
Sorry, Joe.
Are you trying to tell me that you haven't listened to the Tortured Poets Department?
No,
8
actually,
times
I have not.
I mean, I can't. Listen.
I haven't listened to it at all.
I know.
I'm a Cowboy Carter person, so I can't. Who am I? But I will say yes, that there is something. Taylor Swift and Hillary Clinton about all of this, which is, white feminism loves to say, we're oppressed too, we're oppressed too, we're oppressed too. And it's like, yeah, we know. Okay. Like, it's kind of but you're not reading the room. Like, you're saying this to black women.
Yes.
You're saying this to lesbian black women. You're saying this to trans lesbian black women. Do you really want to keep going down that line of
to quote Ariana Grande as a response? Yes. And
yeah,
continue. What do you mean?
Thank you. Next,
we know.
We get it, and I feel like one of the things that tends to happen with those clouds of diversity. This happens everywhere, right? I've seen it happen with black authors trying to crowd out anyone else from writing about black people. I've seen, Asian American authors, Asian American Pacific Islander authors talk about no one can write our stories but us. That kind of. Yeah. That's a cute philosophy, a cute theory. But Lance Olsen has proven that you can have the name Lance Olsen and write a more feminist book than any Madeline Miller, Natalie Haynes book by centering presumably, because Debris presumes her gender. She presumes nothing else in the entire story. Mm-hmm. But she presumes her own gender enough and her own name. Mm-hmm. But look at the name. I mean, she calls herself Trash.
Literally. Right? That's her name.
That's her whole... So this is a snapshot of how she dignifies herself. But at the same time, the book is called Dreamlives, right? Mm-hmm. Trash doesn't dream. And so even there, she's this incredible juxtaposition. Mm-hmm. And that's why, again, I say anyone who is trans or not gender nonconforming should be reading this book, because it gets down to it literally puts it on the page, the feeling that is impossible to even state. That feeling of what it feels like to be in a body that you do not recognize as your own is, how can you put that down, right? You can't, it's there, it's in here. And I have no idea who Lance is beyond his name and his credits. I don't care. That's the thing. I stop caring after I'm reading the book and realizing, oh my God. Boom, there it is. He said it. I don't even need to know anything else about him. And I think that's one of the things that, again, I found so refreshing about this book that I cannot overstate enough, which is, if you are an author with something to say, if you've looked at your world and you say something's missing here and you have to put it down so that people can see what's missing physically in the world, then that is the goal. It's not, I wanted to write a story with people like me in it. Yay! File it in a drawer and do something better. Honestly. I get it. That's great. That's cute. That's wonderful. That's nice. But that's it? Come on.
Do more with
more, because you know who never thinks that way? The inventors of Batman, Superman, and Star Wars didn't go, I want to make something that feels like me. Please. They just did what they wanted.
Right.
So, do what you want. It's crazy to me that you have to, justify yourself. And that's
Don't put yourself in the box surrounding, one specific thing. Expand. You're not going to grow, one, as a writer, or two, as a person, if you don't expand outwards and either research, the other people that you're writing about, or,
Which is why I think this book is important in another way, too, because of its structure, its shape, and the fact that it's more approachable than it seems it would be.
Yeah.
And once you get going, you're there.
Yeah, that's one of the striking things about it, is because as fragmented and experimental as it is, mm-hmm. there's a distinct flow to it and a beauty in the language that takes you from page one to the ending really quick, and it's easy to come back to for that reason, for its brevity as well.
It is. Yeah. I just cannot say enough about. I think it's incredible. It's such a good book. I mean, again, and it's not going to be everybody's taste, right? It's just not going to be. And I think everyone has, again, like I say all the time, like we all have a right to love what we love. You know me, I'm a big popcorn pulp junkie. Like I love my pulp fiction to death because I think it's more genius than people give it credit for. However, when you have a breath of fresh air like this book, it reminds you of what a really powerful book, well written, can do. And that's, worth commenting on, I think. Anyway.
Applause for Tony.
Yeah, I know.
That was beautiful. That was gorgeous. And just so you know, because I know Tony likes their writing style already, he did write 2. I guess Wikipedia is calling them anti-textbooks, but he wrote 2 books on writing itself.
I love that. Yeah, I did see one of them. I didn't realize he had a second one.
Yeah, he has nice. 2.
Nice. I do love... Yeah, writing books are...
And he has a short story collection.
I think he has several, doesn't he?
Yes.
Or is it just one? Okay.
He has 5.
Wow, that's right. Yeah. He's very prolific, which I found.
He has a lot.
Did he come out with one this year or like last year? Because I haven't kept up to date since.
Absolute Away.
Absolute Away. I'll have to look at it.
Should we? I'm gonna read a little bit of this blurb.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just so that people get a sense of when we say voices, right? Mm-hmm. So, Sappho, Sophocles, Borges, Plato, A Traveler on the Silk Road, Danielle Steele. It really is. There's so many voices, and my favorite aspect, honestly, of the voice of the voice changes, all the gods were silenced.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
yes.
no. So earlier I was reading this, and Grant's over here doing the donation books.
Yeah.
And he just hears me just start cackling from the other room for a hot second, because it gets to the Athena.
Yeah, and
there's
nothing.
And so I turned around, I cackled, I walked up to Grant, and I went, "Are you kidding me right now? This is the best page of this whole book."
And you got to Poseidon, right?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
This is the Bowl of Heaven chorus.
Yeah, yes, right? It's all, and I as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, no, you didn't.
Yeah.
And then I got to
Poseidon.
Yeah, and then I got to Poseidon, and I was like, oh, it's that kind of careful attention. Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, honestly, Debris, it's like a full-throated shout for anyone who has ever felt any measure of silence forced upon them. This book dives into all of those places. It gets uncomfortable. It gets gross. Mm-hmm. Not Burroughs or Samuel L. Delaney gross, but it gets Samuel R. Delaney, anyway, whatever. But it gets, it goes there, Yes.
So you know what's even more entertaining?
Mm-hmm.
So you know who sent the Minotaur, right? To King Minos?
Who sent it?
It was Poseidon.
There was Poseidon, yes.
So his whole entire complete silence makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
And then also the Athena sense, especially because of I think that's Daedalus's connection.
He designed the labyrinth.
Yes,
right?
he designed the labyrinth, but Athena's the one that kind of pushed him into it.
I think Athena had something to do with it.
So that makes so much more sense as to why those 2 specific gods are in there and why they're completely silenced.
It feels like... So I if I was teaching a class,
Mm-hmm.
if I was teaching a literature course, and we were studying the Greeks, I would teach Iliad, Odyssey, Dreamlives.
Interesting.
Yeah, all 3 of them. They're essential. It's that important. It is that. It's there. It does it in the most modern way because it uses postmodernist techniques and poetry techniques to put it together, and then it calls itself a novel. That is
whether or not you want to consider it a novel. I don't even as a work of collected words.
Yeah, it's not a conventional novel.
Yeah.
No.
But a novel is the closest thing that it is. It even isn't really a poetry collection because it constructs a narrative. And not in an artificial sense. It constructs a narrative naturally, but it's also very...
It's not told in a traditional narrative fashion. It's still a narrative, though.
It's still a narrative, but it's not the kind of thing where it's like the author's not forcing it, but there are points at which the author is being very intentional about those things. So it's not a like to call Naked Lunch a novel would be wrong, right? Because it just isn't.
It doesn't feel like one.
It is what it is.
It is what it is, right? It's not, and even now, with the whole second and third postmodernist movements sort of over, it still is a singular thing unto itself, right? It is what it is, and we still don't really know what that is. Is it a short story
Naked
collection?
Lunch is Naked Lunch, and that's all that matters.
That's really, that's it,
Dreamlives
right?
is Dreamlives, and that's all that matters.
But Dreamlives feels, it very much is a novel. It just isn't a conventional one. And again, that's why I love it, because it reminds us that novels don't have to be, approved by Reese Witherspoon in order to be considered a novel. All right, I'm done.
So next episode...
Yes, whose book are we reading
Mine.
next episode? Yours?
It's Kiki's Delivery Service.
Oh, okay. I'm actually really excited.
Yeah, we're going back into my kind of whimsical...
I haven't read Kiki's yet, so I'm actually excited for that.
Well, I didn't realize that it was an actual novel before it was the movie. Mm-hmm. So I didn't realize that whatsoever. And then we bought it for the collection upstairs, or Tony and Kathy did.
Yeah.
And I saw it, and then I immediately went, oh, it exists. I didn't even know it was a thing.
It was out of print.
Yeah.
For decades. Yeah, even after Miyazaki's Kiki's did really well. Because that's the thing. We see Kiki's Delivery Service now as having done well, but before Spirited Away, Ghibli and Miyazaki was not what it is now. I mean, Spirited Away really broke the ceiling on that.
It really did, even though
way.
all of those movies are so iconic.
So good, yeah. So everything before Spirited Away became ushered into the mainstream, because who's going to say no? I mean...
Fair.
Yeah. And then, of course, Howl's Moving Castle happened, and so that just...
That's yours.
It is mine, yeah. Two.
Ooh, we're doing two Miyazaki's one after the other. I love it here.
I know.